Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss how the Tories are having to put one of the EU era rules abolished by the retained EU law bill back on the statute books. This particular law means women have a right to equal pay with men, one of the workers' rights that have recently been abolished, but perhaps the Tories have worked out that this may work against them in the election. It's the wrong rights, Gromit. We abolished the wrong rights. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So if you think women in the UK have a right to equal pay with men for doing the same job, think again. Was the case, but the Tories removed that right along with hundreds of others before summer when they passed their retained EU Law Act. Now, to be clear, the right is still in force. These sunset clauses for the end of this year, but it is set to be abolished from the 1st of January 2024. And I can almost imagine the conversation between ministers and the vaguely sensible political strategists that the Tories may still have. You did what? You binned the right to equal pay for half your voters. Yeah, seemed like a good idea at the time. Did it? I mean, yes, it's a really good idea if what you want is a Labour government next year, sure. In fact, there may well be lots of legal rights you think you have because you have for years. And there's been no great focus on their loss in the mainstream media. Where were the headlines about, oh yeah, from January you haven't got these rights anymore? You only actually have these for a few more months. But according to the Financial Times, the Tories are having to row back a little bit in the face of Labour's pledge to reinstate all the workers' rights when they form a government, quite quickly in fact. And Tory strategists have obviously woken up to the possibility that Labour might just make a fuss of the Tories abolishing equal pay for half the population. After all, it's half their voters as well. The government said they will be introducing the measure via secondary legislation later this year. We're quoted as saying there will be absolutely no reduction in equal pay reductions. It says, well, why did you abolish it then? I mean, that's why you're having to put them back later this year, because you binned them. The situation right now is that this particular protection, plus hundreds of others, are going to be gone from the statute book as of next year. And note also that they said they're going to use secondary legislation. So this is legislation that like ministers deal with, ministers of the Crown. No need to involve Parliament, no need to involve the elected body. Because remember, that's how this right was lost along with the others. Government ministers who aren't elected to their positions. Some of them are elected to Parliament as MPs, but not all of them. Some of them from the House of Lords. But they're not elected to their positions in government. And they have removed this and other rights and protections without bothering to check if Parliament was cool with it. Now, granted, Parliament gave those ministers the power to do that, but this just serves to highlight why we should not allow the government to simply remove rights or protections without a formal parliamentary record of what the pros and cons were and which elected representatives backed the move. Because let's consider this equal pay protection, which, you know, well, if the Tories hadn't rowed back on it, would not exist from next year in the UK. Remember that the hard Brexiteers wanted thousands of these rights and protections removed. In fact, they wanted all of them gone, including this one. They were upset that Sunak's government only wanted to remove hundreds instead of thousands. They insisted that they're bad laws for Britain. Well, by scaling down the destruction from thousands to hundreds of these protections, the government were basically saying, oh, we only want to get rid of the worst ones, the ones we think are the really terrible ones. Now, someone went through those EU era rules, which Parliament had given ministers the power to unilaterally remove from our statute books. One or more Tory ministers went down the list and identified equal pay for women as one to be removed. It wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. Because if they'd removed all of those EU era rules and regulations, like Jacob Rees-Mogg intended, then they may have been able to get away with saying it was inadvertent. Oh, we didn't realise that was an EU rule. Even then, it would have been reckless because you should still have checked what you were doing to our rights and protections. But you could have gotten away with saying, oh, we didn't realise that was an EU rule. But this isn't what happened. The government decided, Rishi Sunak's government decided to be selective. So that means they consciously chose to remove the right for women to be paid the same as men for the same work. No matter what backtracking they attempt now, that is the situation, and Labour should not only make a song and dance about it, but highlight others as well. I'd even think of a campaign leaflet with the top 10 most important rights that the Tory government have now removed from the statute books. They could include that one. Until the Tories put it back, they can include that one. Because as of this moment, if the Tories don't reinstate it, then it's gone from the 1st of January by automatic process of the law. You know, and all of these removed without a specific vote in Parliament. They could even argue that actually every MP who voted for the retained EU law bill actually voted to have those rights removed, because they did really. Without their support for the bill, the government couldn't have done this. And there are a couple of other considerations as well. Ministers removed this protection without considering the political ramifications. You know, this was a minister, it was a senior Tory politician. It wasn't an official who decided to do this. This was a politician. Now, if they can't tell what is and is not going to be a popular move, they've got no chance, have they? It's just another one to chalk up of reasons why the Tories just aren't going to win in the general election. And the final consideration is this assertion that they're going to put the rule back with secondary legislation, just like they removed it. So that also means not consulting Parliament about it. So what this highlights is that ministers now have the power to remove certain laws without consulting Parliament, but they can also reinstate certain laws without consulting Parliament. This is chaotic. In the words of Ed Miliband, when also talking about the Tories' implementation of Brexit, what incompetence! Employment law is now in a state of flux. Someone might go to court to protect their rights. They might say, I've got a legal right here. I'm going to go to court to protect these rights. Partway through the potentially expensive case, a minister of the Crown might just randomly change the law without any notice at all. Absolute madness. But then so too was Brexit. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.